excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth, is it true that your dad has a ringside seat but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome. Yeah! Give it up for Claire. Thank you so much, Claire. High five. Yeah.
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance vlog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Pre-Party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your premier source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Cal, and each and every Tuesday I come to you, that hashtag NWA fam, to talk about all things pro wrestling with an emphasis on the NWA. Again, this is the Pre-Party. I'm Jay Cal, and we toned down that light a little bit because I was looking a tad bit pasty. But yeah, man, I've had a pretty good week. I don't know about you guys. I had a great weekend. I was checking out some wrestling right here locally in my own backyard. Got to see friend of the show Mecha Wolf in action as he took on the Lucha scumbag Chris Nasty for Valley Wrestling Connection, the VWC, and I got to see my boy Mecha Wolf right there. Yeah. It's funny when you take friends who don't normally go to wrestling shows, and then you go into the wrestling show, you do the meet and greet, you're meeting everybody, and then they realize that you have like friendships with these guys, and they're like, wait, you know him? I go, yeah, man. Yeah, that's Mecha Wolf. That's my boy. It was a huge match for Chris Nasty. And Lamb, you hear me trying to get Chris Nasty on this live stream, honestly, too, this podcast. Chris Nasty is a guy who has all the tools to be very successful in pro wrestling. He's still young, but he is very much matured. And I know that I saw him a few years ago. He got injured. Then he was kind of out around COVID time. He didn't really get a chance to take off. And then what I've watched in the last few years is his maturation process really go through the next level. Chris Nasty's a guy who, again, you could put him in the ring with somebody like Mecha Wolf, and it's still very believable. It's a good match. It's a good matchup. It's a good dynamic. And we're talking about Mecha Wolf, who is a seasoned veteran working for some of the biggest wrestling promotions in the world. And I really feel like Chris Nasty, the Lucha scumbag, is really poised to make a big dive in 2024. Again, he had that big match with Mecha Wolf. We know that he's got some stuff with the Santino brothers that's coming up later this month. I think if you don't know who Chris Nasty is now, you will by the end of the year. Yeah, the different side of him. Exactly. I do want to say what's up to everyone in the chat because, we aren't we without you. And so I see Jeremy's here, Bobby Batito's here, of course, Lamb's here, Dave Scooby. Noob is in the house. What's going on, Noob? And so just more about the show that I saw this past weekend. Yeah, it was a free show, completely free in the Inland Empire, which free wrestling events happen every now and then, but this one was stacked with talent. And I mean, there was so many good wrestlers that were appearing, both local and kind of bigger names. Like on the card was Real One Enzo Amore. He wrestled Honest John. That was a pretty stellar matchup. Like I said, the aforementioned Mecha Wolf took on the Lucha Scumbag, Chris Nasty. Also on the card was the Brian Kendrick. You might remember him as Spanky. And Fuego del Sol, a protege of one Cody Rhodes. It seemed like there was a lot of talent again in an area that doesn't see a lot of talent. So it was really cool that the folks over at Wrestling Valley Wrestling Connection put together such a good show. And speaking of good shows, of course, tonight we have POWERRR, which is set to have a when's the red carpet rumble? Well, that's the great thing, Jeremy, because come tomorrow at 3:05, the other Alliance guys will be interviewing Mr. Daniel Hill, who is the official booker for the United Wrestling Network's Championship Wrestling, and I also believe Derby City. So you might want to ask him then when the red carpet rumble is, because I know last year the red carpet rumble happened in January, and I know that because I was there in Mesa, Arizona, and I saw Bad Dude Tito win the red carpet rumble. So I would imagine that his showcase, his title match should be coming up any minute, and the red carpet rumble for 2024 should probably be happening relatively soon. And it was a big match for Honest John, and you know what? The match went to a disqualification. So Honest John not having a victory over the Real One, but didn't do the job for him either. Looked very strong in that match. How you doing? His promo was better than Alonzo. That's not his name. Enzo Amore. His promo was much better. So yeah, support your local indie wrestling. I'm always about that. Bobby Petito says Coastal Championship Wrestling will be showing Kenzie Page versus OVW wrestler Ari Alexander for the NWA Women's World Championship on their YouTube channel. I think that drops tonight. As Pollo Del Mar has mentioned, now Pollo is now working with Coastal Championship Wrestling. They are literally the last territory. They are running so many nights a week, not a month, a week, that they're putting on so many of these events. I just see that wrestling promotion. I feel like if they can get the right partnership and the right mix going, could be a really big deal. I know that they've teased using the old Championship Wrestling from Florida kind of moniker. It'd be great if they did. But they've also been running a lot of areas outside of that territory. So who knows exactly what their plan is for CCW. But I think they're on a different path than the NWA, which is fine that they can feature all the NWA talent they want. That's a win-win situation for both the NWA and CCW. But at the end of the day, I feel like any match that celebrates our world champions in the National Wrestling Alliance or the United Wrestling Network is a win for those companies. Noob says, I watched a match from Fight the World Wrestling Showdown over the weekend on YouTube, and the lighting and the venue was bad. The problem with Fight the World Wrestling, and Noob, I think you'd hit the nail on the head. I tried to find information about that company when it was announced that they would be doing the first show with the NWA. And I knew that was Brian Idol and Natalia Markova's school was connected to Fight the World Wrestling. But if you look, their website isn't updated regularly. The socials are lacking in a lot of ways. And the production is it's not great. It's just not. And the problem is in 2024, when, JCal 2023, JCal can take this phone Samsung Galaxy 23G, take it to Mexico City and record matches from 10 rows back. There's really no excuse for any wrestling company to put out content that's subpar. If you don't have the right light, either find a venue that does or get a lighting rig that'll illuminate your venue. Again, I feel like Fight the World Wrestling might just be there for local audience, and anything extra in their eyes is extra. I feel like you could really expose your company to a greater audience if you're putting content out, whether it be YouTube or wherever else. Lamb, I've had this phone for almost a year now. This is the phone that I took to Mexico City. It's the phone I took to TJ. It's a phone I took to Glassboro and Nashville and St. Louis. So yeah, I mean, it's a great phone. It wasn't cheap, but it does so much, and it's so versatile and so easy to use. And it's not a paid endorsement, although if Samsung wants to pay me to talk about their product, I'd be more than happy to. But yeah, if you're out there and you're trying to make content, this is the one to use. Sorry, I've just got a work phone call. I'm looking forward to watching Burchill wrestling on NWA Power. I mean, same here, Bobby. Like, we saw one match with Burchill, and it was in a tag team match with Trevor Murdoch against Jack Stain and Tim Storm. And I got to be honest, I wasn't all that impressed with that match. It wasn't a great showcase for anyone involved. But we have to understand, too, that Burchill has just been slowly introduced into the NWA. This matchup seems a little ill-conceived as far as I'm concerned. Again, not one singles victory in his repertoire to garner a title match. There's so many guys who are on the roster who I feel like are more deserving, but I also know that you're trying to get star power. But then again, that's also questionable too, because Burchill really hasn't been a star in the world of wrestling for several years now. And although he has a reputation in the past, he hasn't really done anything lately. So I don't know why he's getting this shot, but I hope it's a great match. I'm looking forward to watching it. And again, if you haven't seen Power yet, join the party. I haven't watched it yet either, but if you come to our Discord after this live stream, immediately following, we're going to have special treats. So you should probably join the Discord, join our live chat on Discord, because you never know what you might see there. And that especially goes out to our international fans who haven't been able to see Power or anything like that. But tonight's episode of Power is looking pretty good. We also saw over the weekend, Joe Kazana presented the new NWA Southeast Heavyweight Championship to Thrillbilly, Silas Mason. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a good photo of that, so I didn't have anything to post. But this belt is a beautiful title. I'm not sure where it came from, who made it, but it's a damn good-looking belt. It is the first affiliate recognized NWA championship, and I don't know if we're going to see that title on Power anytime soon, but I kind of hope we do. Lamsons, are we talking about Paul Burchill from WWE? Yes, Lamb. That's exactly who Burchill is. That's who he is. Correct. Sorry. So yeah, and that match takes place tonight. Of course, that's the national championship. It's a first time Silas has defended the belt in a while, so we're excited to see that. The other matchup that a lot of people are talking about is evidently the television unification bout. They're going to unify the women's television championship currently held by Max with the men's television championship currently held by MIM'S. And when they walk away, one person will be in possession of both belts. And this will be a very interesting time for the NWA. Fresh for the CW app, who knows what kind of controversy this might ring, how many bells this might hit. But the thing about this matchup between Max the Impaler and MIM'S is for the first time a title that is intended for the female wrestlers will be on the line against a male competitor. We've never seen that before. Obviously, if you've been watching wrestling for a while, I mean, outside of, prop belts used for making movies, right? But in real life, we say real life, in pro wrestling, it's never been that a women's championship has been defended against a male wrestler. Now that I think about it, wait, what about what? Okay, normally there hasn't been a women versus man for a title. We have seen in the past where China challenging Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental Championship, Medusa winning the WCW Cruiserweight Championship from Evan Courageous, the hardcore title, the 24/7 title. These championships were always intended to be for the male counterpart of wrestlers, not the females. And yet we have history of women holding these titles. Even like you look at TNA wrestling, and I think Lamb just pointed out to that, we have Tessa Blanchard holding the TNA World Championship for some time just a few years ago. But it's been a very one-sided, where we haven't seen a man challenge, at least a realistically challenge for a women's title. And this will change tonight, because when MIM'S and Max the Impaler battle, although Max is non-binary, MIM'S is very much identifies as a male. And so if MIM'S were to win the title, he would have the problem of being the men's champion and holding the women's title. Now, in his interview last week, and it's not interview, his promo, he announced that he would just relinquish the title back to the women in the division. But if Max were to win, and Max being non-binary, doesn't identify as a woman, doesn't identify as a man, if Max wins the title, well, then Max will be obligated to defend both the women's championship against women and the men's championship against men. So it's going to be a very interesting dichotomy. Depending on whatever way it goes, it's going to set a weird precedent for not only the NWA, but wrestling at large, because we've never had this before. We've never had somebody identify as non-binary challenging for both women and men's championship. And we know that Max has competed in, Joshi promotions in Japan. They have competed in Finland, defending the women's television championship. They have competed in all over the U.S., defending both titles from Joshi Pro, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling, and also the NWA. So it will kind of have to see how this is going to play out, but it's very compelling, and we'll see where that's going to lead us. Sorry, guys, I'm getting work calls. Sorry. All right, sorry, guys. Almost done. The joys of owning your own business, right? Didn't a guy in TNA try to get the TNA Knockouts title in 2008? Lamb, maybe you're right. Maybe that is something that happened. I got to be honest, I wasn't following super closely back in 2008. I don't recall that, but now that I think about it, it does sound familiar. Lamb says, maybe it's just me, but how would you rate Mason's title reign? I thought that it would create more buzz, but I somehow forgot that he held the title, maybe due to his losses prior to his win. I just feel like when we look at Silas Mason, I just feel like they need to figure out what they want to do with this guy, because I think as a member of the Southern Six, he's dominating, he's intimidating, he's a powerful dude. He's basically the muscle, where Kerry's the finesse and Alex is the everything else. I think Silas is the muscle there, but Silas doesn't really need to be involved with a group to be over. I mean, he is a great athlete. And we saw him go against a guy like Davey Richards 2 years ago at the 74th anniversary show. We saw what he was made of when he won the national title, defeating both members of the Immortals, Oddinson and Kratos. He has had he's had a very easy time growing in the ranks of the NWA. But, you know, if you're going to push him as a world's heavyweight championship competitor, maybe he doesn't need to be part of that list of the Southern Six. Until they really figure out what they're going to do with him, has he done anything remarkable? Not exactly. You know, there are some dudes on the roster who would make some interesting opponents. One guy in particular, I think Jay Bradley would be a very fun challenge for Silas Mason. You know, even a Trevor Murdoch going back and trying to get some championship gold would be a very interesting bout for Silas Mason. I just feel like they haven't given him those matches yet, and that might be holding him back. Let's see. Well, this match made me lose interest in having the women's TV title in the NWA moving forward this year. Yeah, Noob, you're not alone on that, and I'm not a huge fan of intergender wrestling. I do believe there's a time and place for everything. I feel like there's enough women competitors that you could have a strong division without intermingling the men talent. Now, I know Max is a very unique property for the NWA. Not being non-binary, not representing as either a man or a woman, I get where you have a lot more wiggle room. Let's face it, Max, by not claiming any gender, allows Max to fit into wherever Max wants to fit in. The problem with that, though, is everyone else is still in their unique bubble. And for so long in pro sports, it's been the men bubble and then the women bubble. And there's never been a bubble for non-binary. So I don't know how that's going to play out in the long run. But in the meantime, we'll have to wait and see what happens tonight. Bobby Batito says Zara Zakir is wrestling at Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. James says there is the American list. Zara Zakir is SoCal's best female wrestler now, while Johnny Robbie is still out of action. Fiona, welcome to the show. You didn't miss a whole lot. We're just talking a little bit about intergender wrestling. Of course, tonight's main event is going to be for the unification of the TV titles between Max the Impaler and, of course, MIM'S. And this matchup is really going to kind of set the direction going forward for what the NWA will be all about in terms of a new way of thinking. As we mentioned before, the television title, Sean Vega says that is not the main event. Well, see, and that's the thing, Sean. I have not yet watched the show yet. I would imagine that would have been the main event, considering as much hype and attention that match has gotten, but apparently it's not the main event. I think that's the match most people are going to be talking about after the fact. We also know that the tag team titles, the U.S. tag titles, are on the line. Okay, James. All right. I guess I did not know there was a large contention of non-binary wrestlers. I know locally we have Kid Bandit, who has been. I know Kid Bandit is trans, and I know that at some point they were non-binary. There you go. Dave Scooby has an answer for everything, and this is not a bad answer at all. Just have a title and call it the badass title. Anyone and everyone can compete. James, this is new information for me. I did not know that. I thought Sonny Kiss. I thought, again, I'm not trying to call anyone out. I thought Sonny represented as a male who was homosexual. So I did not know that they were non-binary. That's new information for me. Thanks for sharing that. I guess I need to do some more homework because I was not aware of that. Kid Bandit. I feel very bad for Kid Bandit because they have had a lot of injuries as of late, and I know that wrestling was kind of home for them. So I feel very bad that they've been unable to get back into the ring. I hope that the time away from the sport will allow them to heal, to get back to it, because I know that's where their true passion was. So I hope Kid Bandit does heal up. I don't know much about Kid Bandit. I've seen them wrestle once, maybe twice, and they're very talented. I don't know what the future holds for Kid Bandit, but if they choose to continue to wrestle, I think they will find a lot of opportunities down the road. James says, not saying those lists are correct, just Wikipedia has it. See, this is all like, I guess I never even thought to look there at Wikipedia for that. I know Wikipedia has a lot of very good, useful information, a lot of stuff that's just BS that anyone can throw up there. So you have to be careful. But hey, David Valentine, who I think is new to the show, at least I'm not familiar with you, Dave. Thanks for stopping by. He says, I hope Blunt Force Trauma comes to the ring and attacks MIM'S so nobody can win and both Max and MIM'S keep their respective titles. I can tell you this, David, I have not watched the match, but I know that that is not what happens. And again, I like the idea of there being two distinct titles and two distinct divisions. I don't necessarily want one champion to represent both TV titles, but this isn't one thing we know about the NWA in this modern era. We know about the NWA with Billy Corgan is that it's not a product that's booked for you. It's a product that's booked for what he thinks is the larger fan base. So when that's the case, it's not these aren't stories necessarily for the longtime NWA fans. These are stories to try to hopefully connect with that newer audience. And of course, with CW and what CW has represented to the American youth over the last few years, I feel like they're hoping to catch on some more of those fans who had enjoyed in the past, like Riverdale or Dawson's Creek or whatever. So I feel like that'll be, I don't know how that's going to play out, but I just don't want to wait for our lives to be over, Sometimes I make myself laugh. Lamb says, so Mason versus Burchill was the mainer over TV versus TV? Bruh. Look, I know Burchill has a name. I will say that, like, he has a name, but again, he hasn't been on TV for a long, long time. When was his last WWE match? I'm going to look it up right now because I don't think I've seen Paul Burchill on my TV other than the NWA in a very long time. Let me see. So his last televised WWE match, you have to go back all the way to 2010. So we're talking 14 years ago was the last time he was on TV, on WWE programming. And then he had made appearances for Crossfire, for AIW, for OVW. But, outside of those smaller wrestling promotions, hasn't had a presence online until 2023 when he stepped into the ring with Jack Stane and Tim Storm. So with that being said, I don't have a lot of faith in that he's going to have this amazing match, but we'll see. I'm always like to be pleasantly surprised, and hopefully he does have a great match. Even 2010. I thought he was released in 2008. Yeah, 2008 would have been pretty. That would have been my guess. Bobby Petito says, would you like to see Fuego del Sol wrestle on the NWA? 100%, man. The kid's got charisma. He's great in the ring. He has a lucha presence, although I wouldn't call him a true luchador. I don't think he was trained in Mexico or anything like that. And that's not to say that you can't be a luchador without training in Mexico, but I believe he was trained more of an American style through the Nightmare Factory, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he could have a good match with a high-flying wrestler, and especially that the NWA had been, until recently, using Ray Fury. I think a Fuego del Sol versus Ray Fury match would be. And then you have guys like Joe Alonzo and Colby Carino to mix in with that. I feel like there would be a very good, fun, interesting mix in the junior heavyweight division, and I think that could be a lot of fun. All right. Do you think CW executives will play a role in booking? I don't think they're going to actually have control of the book per se, but if they say, "Hey, Billy, we'd like to see more of this," they're going to see more of that, for sure. Look, they have to speak for new masters now with CW, and we've talked about this ad nauseum. The NWA went to bed with CW in order to grow the product. What they've already done since then is they short-sighted their international audience. They weren't thinking about who is still going to be able to see the product. So although it's a big baller move to jump to CW, they've abandoned a good chunk of the audience in the interim. They're hoping to get a deal, an international deal, or work out something with CW at some point. But as of right now, there's nothing in play for the international audience. So that's one. If CW says, "Hey, we want more bigger names on this show," you're going to see more Matt Cardonas. You're going to see more Paul Burchills, I guess. I mean, they're going to bring Top Dollar to Hard Times. So I know that they're trying to have a more established, bigger names associated with the product, besides the core that they've already started building upon. So will they have like a play or a role in the booking? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be Billy's final decision. James H. Jackson, quoting somebody, said, "I'm a queer, non-binary person. I figured out me long ago, carved out a confident little space. But if you're still exploring, if your language keeps evolving, if you aren't sure if you'll ever be sure, just know you're wonderful and important, and I'm so proud of you." Pride. And that was a tweet from Veda Scott. And again, that's, I try to think and be more inclusive in my vocabulary and my train of thought. I know not everyone feels the same way I do, and that's okay. You're allowed to think and feel and believe anything that you want. With that being said, I don't know which direction the CW has, or even the NWA has, put into play with this idea of a genderless title, but we'll have to see how it all plays out. Noob says, "I watched a couple of interviews that Natalia Markova is in, and Natalia Markova has said that she's open to go back to AEW or open to go to the WWE. She's open to everything." Well, that's the thing. Markova is, it's kind of the benefit of not being signed, is that she has the wherewithal to go anywhere that they're willing to pay her. If CMLL calls tomorrow and wants to put her on a show, they have every right to, or AAA, or New Japan Strong, or anyone can hire her because she's not bound by a contract. That is a luxury of not being signed. Of course, Billy has used Natalia Markova in pretty much every opportunity that he has had to use her. So I feel like her job is safe in the NWA until something better comes along. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. David Valentine says, "Why is so many politics involved in wrestling? The same thing happened in TNA when Tessa Blanchard beat Sami Callihan for the Impact TNA World Heavyweight Championship." David, it's just a reflection of the times, man. And we live in a world where there's so much ambiguity and a lot of fear and a lot of people, refusing to see things from a different perspective. And I'm applying that to both sides of the spectrum, guys. There's a lot of it's my way or the highway type thought processes. And I think as long as people have their head buried in the sand one way or the other on topics and fail to realize that there is a middle ground that most of us can meet at, this is how it's always going to be. So it's a reflection of just the days that we are in right now. And I can't really add anything more than that. I actually found that the tweet to confirm. Okay. Poyo said that's a hard no, and I'm assuming that, there we go. That's what it is. CW could influence, but certainly not book. Yeah. Bobby says Fuego del Sol versus Kerry Morton. Kerry Morton at this point, I don't think is interested in wrestling in junior heavyweight matches anymore. I think he's more interested in trying to develop into a heavyweight. He said that countless times. I don't think we'll see him challenge for the junior heavyweight title anymore, which for me means that if Fuego del Sol did come to the NWA, him and Kerry probably wouldn't be mixing it up. Maybe more likely Alex Taylor. Lamb says Bamboo and El Rey would be something for the junior division, but hopefully they'll get that UWN spot. Look, I have no less than 3 times put into Dave Marquez's ear that Bamboo and El Rey would be amazing for the United Wrestling Network, especially now that they have their deal with the Estrella TV. I think if they're going to have a Spanish-speaking program, those 2 gentlemen would be perfect for that. Pollo says CW could influence, but certainly not book. Thank you, Pollo. Again, Pollo, you know me personally. I think at this point, I think it's fair to say that I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, especially when it comes to understanding pronouns and trying to be on top of it. But I do try. And if I slip up, I hope you it won't hold that too much against me. Veta identifies as non-binary despite how presenting to the eyes of the world. There you go. Do you think NWA will sign a TV contract with Access TV or Pop TV? And David, no, I think right now their future is with CW, and I think it will be for some time. Obviously, if the opportunity arises for them to sign a network deal and be on television as opposed to an app, I think that, if the money is right and the opportunity is there and it doesn't conflict with any already negotiated contracts, I would say sure. But with Pop TV, I mean, we saw what wonders that did for TNA, which was almost nothing. And Access has even smaller viewer audience than Pop. So I don't know that that's where the NWA would want to go. But again, like if the right deal comes along and they're free and clear to sign, I don't want to speak for the NWA, but I would assume they jump at that. Pollo says, please note that the titles are not unified. They have a single holder at this moment. The title defended will be defended on Mac's opponent. You heard it here first, and that's that. Oh, the title defended will depend on who Mac's opponent will be. So I think Pollo just kind of told everyone, that when the new champion defends the title, if the new challenger is a female, then the women's television title will be on the line. If the new challenger is a man, then the men's title will be on the line. They are already signed to CW, although it is on the app. It's still part of the deal, man. I get it. Like, there is a difference between the CW app and the CW network. But at this point, if they're on the app, that's where their commitment is. I don't think they're even shopping for another deal currently. Now, I could be mistaken, but that's how I see it. Nieves will get the big push. Nieves should get a big push. Her match last week with Kenzie Page was chef's kiss. And the style of wrestling that they both compete at, there's very similar in styles of ring. But Tiffany Nieves, I think, is really poised to make a big impact in the NWA. No pun intended, of course. But we know that she is the Mission Pro Wrestling Champion, the Ohio Valley Women's Champion. And I could see her adding the NWA title to that foray, that repertoire of championship gold. But, that doesn't mean that I think that our Women's World Champion, Kenzie, is a pushover by any stretch. You're going to have to beat her. And you don't have to just beat her, but you have to be pretty empowered. Because if it came right down to it, if Tiffany Nieves looked like she was going to walk away with the Burke, I bet you Ella Envy or Kylie Page would have been front and center to stop that from happening. Jeremy says, I won't be watching Hard Times, Lamb, so Flop Nickel can stay with the NWA at the moment. Probably care, Flop Nickel. Shit. The few I checked on the list have actually identified as non-binary, but I do feel this is the first time a title is involved, which changes things a lot. Hopefully NXT will grow the NWA fan base. Look, there is a very interesting dichotomy that's coming, because although the NWA is not going to be on the CW television for now, the opportunity down the road could change. And when NXT comes in 2025, I do believe that the streaming rights will also be on the CW app. So the folks who can watch CW TV will be able to watch NXT, but those of us with the app will still be able to watch the app and get both the NXT and the NWA. And there's a whole growing sports market for the CW app for the CW television channel. They are building a sports-based content. You'll see more racing, more college football. And I think this is a win-win for the CW, because adding the NWA to that mix, when eventually the NXT will be there as well, I think you're showing that your channel is growing and developing a sports mind. I think it's going to be good for either way. Poyo says that is correct, Jay. I think what I was saying, I think I got it. So thank you, Poyo. David says Top Dollar is exclusive signed to TNA. Well, I mean, I don't think he's exclusive to TNA. He might be appearing with TNA, but I don't think he's exclusive. And that's something we're seeing a lot with TNA talent right now. We know that Nick Nemeth signed with TNA, but he's also wrestling for Game Changer Wrestling. We also know that Mustafa Ali is working with TNA Wrestling, but he's also wrestling for companies like Prestige. So I don't think they necessarily are exclusive, but maybe have first rights. I don't know. It's just an assumption, just a guess. Lamb Sum says February 18th, United Wrestling Network returns to YouTube with brand new Championship Wrestling content. And that's also just a shout out one more time. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night, 3:05 Pacific, or excuse me, 3:35 Pacific, 6:35 Eastern, as the other Alliance guys are going to be talking to Daniel Hill of the United Wrestling Network. He's involved with booking both Derby City and Championship Wrestling. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to speak to. I think he's going to have a lot of information for those of you who are excited about the 18th. Bobby Petito says Misa Kate is a future single championship on NWA. I think Misa Kate is terrific. I really like Misa Kate a lot. She has grown on me so much in the last year. M95 was a terrific tag team. I'm very sorry to see Maddie Rankowski leave, but at the same time, it does give Misa Kate the opportunity to see what she's capable of as a singles wrestler. Although, as the women's television champion, Max is seemingly unbeatable. So it would be very shocking to me if Misa Kate is able to wrestle away the women's television championship away from Max. Noob says, as much as I like Natalia Markova, I think Tiffany Nieves should get a big push. I agree. I totally agree and believe that Tiffany Nieves should get a big push. I like Tiffany Nieves. There's not a lot I don't like about the NWA women's division. I really feel like they've come into their own. Gone are the days we complain about not having enough talent. The talent is there. We just need to put a bigger spotlight on them. I feel like with Kenzie being your women's world champion, and with Max dominating the television title, it's going to be up to some of the women to, form tag teams, to pursue tag team excellence, because as of right now, we have Ella Envy and Kylie Page as your tag champions, Pretty in Power, but you also have, there would be a benefit to being a tag team, a women's tag team in the NWA currently. I want it noted for the record, I believe in Joe Hendry. Steve G's in the house. What's up, Steve? Lamb says, clap, clap. I believe in Joe Hendry. Clap, clap. Poyo says, when the audience shows up to watch pro wrestling, they'll find more than just WWE. That's it exactly. And I don't know about you guys, and Poyo and I kind of have a similar history. When we were growing up, Poyo was watching more of the NWA promotions in the South. I grew up in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles market. So for us, the NWA territory was already long gone. We had the WWE. So we were churning on our local syndicated programming. We could see WWE. Once cable rolled into my neighborhood, I was able to watch Jim Crockett Promotions, and I found and fell in love with JCP Wrestling. But then as the years would go on, we'd discover World Class, the AWA, and as this thing all evolved, we'd eventually get like it wasn't Mid-South, but it was a Global Wrestling Federation, GWF. So like for me, as a youngster growing up, and even now, if I can find wrestling content, I will check it out. Especially back then, you had so many few options. Today, it's almost limitless. But for that young man or woman who who are watching CW and like, hey, I really like this NXT program. I'm going to go watch the replay on the app. And then they find the app and it's like, oh, there's NWA. There is so much variety just here on this app. I don't even have to go to YouTube. I can just watch wrestling right here. That's what CW wants. And honestly, that's what the NWA wants. So it's kind of a win-win. And I think that's a good deal. Steve says, has this week's Power already aired on the CW? Yes, it drops at like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, Steve. So it's already up. It's up. I could change the program to go on Monday nights, but that's too much of a change in my schedule. I can't swing it. So here we are on Tuesdays. I believe in Joe Henry since his ROH and indie days. There you go. David says, when is the NWA going to get some more territories? I think David and Pollo could probably back me up here. I don't think this is it's not going to be quantity over quality. I think the only promotions that are going to be invited to be a part of this are going to be some of the top tier independent promotions. Joe Kazana Promotions, if you hadn't watched it prior to the NWA and them joining, it was a good product. It was still very indie. It was still very, especially South indie, but it was very nostalgic to watching the NWA just a few years ago. And I really dug that for them. And it was very, in some ways, Joe Kazana Promotions really does represent what's best about the NWA, the past, the present, the future. It's really nice that Billy Corgan has put this big production value into what the NWA was. But if you want to see what the NWA is currently, but if you want to see what the NWA was, you just look at Joe Kazana Promotions. It's very indicative of where the NWA was just a few years ago. And then, of course, you have EC3 who wants to help build the NWA. Of course, there's some merit to that. He wants to be a good champion. He wants to be well represented, but he's also trying to grow a brand that he's going to be associated with for the rest of his life. So I could see why wanting to make Exodus Pro a part of the NWA and help build upon that legacy. And they've done several shows already with more planned for the future and plans of crowning an NWA Midwest champion. So those two territories, I feel like, are all you need right now. There are other places, and if you watched our interview with Joe Kazana last week, I mean, he mentioned territories in the Mid-Atlantic. He mentioned territories in the Deep South. There's a lot of places they can go. Florida, I don't want to forget that. There are a lot of places they can go next, but I don't feel like there's a rush to do anything except for find the best regional talent they can and try to grow from there. Fiona says, Joe lives along the road from me. That's amazing. James says, and I'm excited for the new UWN season as well. I am too, man. I got to see the first season. I was there for those tapings. I know the second round of tapings happens on February 25th. It's a busy day in SoCal. A lot of wrestling promotions are running that day. I'm literally flying in from Colorado that morning and hoping to make that show that night. Mike's in the house. I've been quiet for way too long. Well, Mike, I appreciate you being here. You know that. Fee Lucky, if you ever see him, tell him he's my ultimate motivation. If you can't watch the NWA, join us in the UWN and Memphis live chats on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. There's other wrestling than WWE. SoCal. Let me introduce you to the version of tables, doors. Get the door. Lamb, I was at Game Changer Wrestling, and I had never seen so many doors be completely destroyed at a wrestling event. One in particular, oh my gosh, poor Dark Sheik. That door bashed her face, and it was pretty rough to see, but they kept fighting. Proud of her. King Bees, Danny B, and Charity King are women's tag team too in the NWA. That's right, Bobby, and I didn't mean to short sight them. I do recognize them. There's very talented individuals from the reality of wrestling. That is our pal Booker T's wrestling promotion. I wish CW had a notification alert like YouTube. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Dave Scooby mentions on March 23rd, the NWA versus WLW. March 23rd there's a date that's local to me that I won't be able to make because that's also my daughter's birthday. And that's very important to me. There's not a specific push to collect territories. We are strengthening existing relationships to enhance talent trade opportunities, putting feelers out for other companies to court the opportunity, but there isn't a concerted effort to accumulate regional promotions. Bobby says EC3 is having a great reign as world's heavyweight champion. Absolutely, no doubt about that. Jeremy, we're going to be in Vail. Timeshare plus wife's desire to be in a snow globe for a week means that I'll be out in Beaver Creek. Mike's hitting on Fiona. David says, check out WOW promotion owned by Jeannie Buss. It would be a great territory for the NWA. David, I agree, and I've actually pitched that idea. I don't know if anyone would ever listen to it, but I feel like WOW and the NWA could do some business. Oh, Poyo, you sweet thing. All right, I'm going to bring the missus. We're going to put that on the calendar right now. In fact, let me just double check the calendar right now as we are wrapping up this wonderful evening of talk. March 30th. Let me see. That's May. March 30th. As of right now, March 30th. That's the day before Easter, don't you know? I think we'll be there. If you like the NWA and want to be part of the Alliance Wrestling family, join the Discord. The link should be in the video description. If you guys have any problems getting in there, make sure that you send me a DM and I will send you an invite. At the Alliance blog on all social medias, we will get that. Yes, I'm going to tell her, like, I'm going to screenshot this and send it to my wife. But she definitely wanted to meet you as well. And who knows, maybe at some point there will be a Poyo and Mrs. J. Cal live stream. And Jeremiah Plunkett's in the house. Like, all my favorite people are coming in today. JP, how the heck are you, man? I think that would JP's a good dude, man. We got to have JP back on. How was your night in Kingsport, JP? You should give her a stare down. That'll be fun. Yeah, Jeremy, we're not even skiers. We just like to be in the snow. Well, my wife likes to be in the snow, and I do what my wife likes. So, Poyo is saying hi to Plunky. Bobby Batito. Fiona. See, Plunkett, damn it, man. You're welcomed here in the Alliance blog live stream Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Just be a part of it. But we're going to wrap it up here again. So tonight, it was just a creek until Miss Cal showed up. That's always a win, good sir. That's always a good to hear. You know what I want to do? I got to figure out what the schedule is for Joe Kazana Promotions, and I want to get out to one of those events very, very soon. I think it would be very cool to check out one of those Joe Kazana Promotion events. Same thing with Exodus Pro. You know, not at the expense of not going to an NWA signature live event or TV taping, but if somehow I can swing it, you know, your boy Jay's going to do it. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. Again, go to our Discord right now as soon as this is finished, because we're going to do some fun stuff there. And if you didn't get to see this week's Power, you might enjoy that live chat. It should be a lot of fun. Mike, we got to talk about what happened. You were there. Anyways, so that's going to do it, guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. It's always a blast to talk to you guys. I'm all right with that, JP. Sorry, this is important. We're talking about business here, guys. I have been to Nashville. I have been to Knoxville. I even was in a little town called, I forgot what it was called, where all the nuclear warheads are at. You know what I'm talking about. All right, guys, that's it. We're going to end it there. You guys have a good one. The other Alliance guys will be here tomorrow, like I said, 6:35 p.m. Eastern, as they're going to be talking to Daniel Hill. If you don't have your Valentine's Day plan, let the other Alliance guys be your Valentines. And then we'll be back on Thursday, probably recapping the NWA and talking about the world of professional wrestling. I hope you guys will join us then. But until next time, we will see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance Blog. And until next